two voices, one legendary track, and a rivalry that nearly derailed them both. When Brandy and Monica teamed up in 1998 for The Boy Is Mine, it was more than just a duet, it was a cultural moment. Two young black women at the height of their powers delivering a chart-topping anthem that would go down in R&B history, but behind the glossy music video and radio domination was a feud so intense it would simmer for over 2 decades. Fueled by egos, media manipulation, childhood trauma, and psychological warfare, the world thought they were fighting over a fictional boy. But the truth, they were battling for something far deeper: identity, respect, and survival in an industry that constantly pitted them against each other. Now, 25 years later, they're hitting the road together. But the question remains, have the wounds really healed? Or is this tour just the calm before one final storm? Let's unpack the hidden truth behind Brandy and Monica's decades-long emotional battlefield and why this reunion might be their riskiest move yet. Before Brandy and Monica ever shared a studio, their rivalry was already being written for them by executives, journalists, and fans hungry for a feud. Monica later revealed that the music industry had already cast them as enemies before they even had a chance to meet. Both were young, talented, and black women rising fast in a competitive R&B scene. But instead of being celebrated for their individual brilliance, they were forced into a narrative of competition. 2 girls, 1 spotlight. And it wasn't just whispers behind the scenes. The contrast between the two was baked into their branding. Brandy was polished and poised, the girl next door with Disney appeal and a sitcom under her belt. Monica was raw, emotional, and unfiltered, an Atlanta teen who spoke her mind and didn't apologize for it. To some, that made her real. To others, it made her ghetto. Their personalities weren't the problem, but the way the media framed them, opposites, adversaries, foils, created a tension that became impossible to ignore. Even when Brandy publicly said she respected Monica and wanted to collaborate, the pressure behind the scenes was already mounting. The image of 2 young women fighting over space in a male-dominated industry became more compelling than the truth, that they were both just trying to survive it. And then came the song that would change everything. The Boy Is Mine was never supposed to be a duet. Brandy originally recorded the song as a solo track for her album, but something shifted. Whether it was strategic marketing or a push to generate buzz through drama, Clive Davis himself stepped in and suggested Monica join the record. Monica agreed, but not without hesitation, and that hesitation would prove to be a red flag for everything that came next. From the jump, the energy was off. Dallas Austin, one of the song's co-producers, later revealed that Brandy thought Monica was too ghetto, while Monica viewed Brandy as too bougie. They didn't understand each other, and worse, they didn't trust each other. 2 girls, still teenagers, being asked to fake unity while barely tolerating one another. It got so bad they couldn't even record in the same room. Monica laid down her vocals in Atlanta. Brandy recorded hers in Los Angeles. Their voices were stitched together in post-production, which only emphasized what many already sensed. This was a collaboration built on tension, not chemistry. And that tension was palpable. Even as the song soared up the charts, beneath the polished vocals was a silent war of glances, studio separations, and clashing egos. The Boy Is Mine wasn't just a fictional story about 2 women fighting over the same man. It was a thinly veiled metaphor for what was really happening behind the scenes. A hit song had been born, but so had a rivalry the world wouldn't stop feeding. On the surface, it looked like a clash of personalities: Brandy, the sweetheart, Monica, the firecracker. But beneath that was something far more complex: 2 young women unknowingly projecting their own insecurities onto each other. In Jungian psychology, the shadow self represents the parts of ourselves we hide, deny, or reject. And often we project that shadow onto others, especially people who reflect something we're afraid to admit about ourselves. That's exactly what happened between Brandy and Monica. Brandy, molded by fame from a young age, had been trained to be perfect. She was the poster child for Black girl excellence, articulate, poised, and non threatening. But that image came with a cost. Every smile had to be calculated, every move had to be approved. Monica, on the other hand, was the opposite. She was raw, emotional, and untamed, everything Brandy had to suppress to survive in Hollywood. Monica, meanwhile, likely saw Brandy's polish as artificial, a symbol of privilege, of being favored by an industry that often overlooked girls who didn't fit the mold. Monica didn't grow up in Hollywood. She came from the South, from struggle, from pain, and she wore that openly. Where Brandy had to smile through the pressure, Monica let hers bleed through the mic. They weren't enemies, they were mirrors, reflecting the parts of themselves they didn't know how to handle. But instead of healing, the music industry and media made them competitors. And instead of unpacking their pain, they were rewarded for performing it. This wasn't just a feud. It was the psychological unraveling of two girls forced to become symbols before they even understood who they were, and the real unraveling had only just begun. By the time The Boy Is Mine hit number one, the cracks were already showing. The success didn't bring Brandy and Monica closer, it pushed them further apart. Brandy took to The Tonight Show and performed the hit song solo. Monica was furious. To her, it wasn't just a scheduling decision, it was disrespect, especially since the track was now being marketed as a joint collaboration. Brandy, on the other hand, felt Monica was crossing a line by naming her entire album The Boy Is Mine, a song that had originally been Brandy's idea. It felt like a personal violation. Then came the 1998 MTV Video Music Awards. Publicly, the girl smiled and posed like nothing was wrong, but backstage, chaos. According to People magazine and later confirmed by Dallas Austin, Monica punched Brandy in the face during rehearsals. Yes, decked her right there backstage. At the time, both camps denied it. Their managers released a carefully worded joint statement blaming media speculation and claiming everything was totally unfair. But behind the scenes, the damage was already done. They went on to perform the song on stage that night, and no one watching could tell a punch had just been thrown. Ironically, the staged rivalry in The Boy Is Mine made the real life hostility invisible. They were so good at faking it for the cameras, the world didn't realize just how fractured things had become. The performance was smooth, the smiles looked real. But what no one saw was that Monica and Brandy weren't just singing a song, they were surviving a war the industry created. And from that moment on, everything between them would be filtered through suspicion, pride, and unresolved pain. What started as industry manipulation soon spiraled into something bigger, something neither Brandy nor Monica could control. With every interview, red carpet, or award show, fans and media turned their interactions into fuel for the fire. The feud stopped being about the two women and became a battleground for fan identity. People weren't just rooting for Brandy or Monica, they were projecting themselves onto them. Brandy became the aspirational symbol for suburban Black girls, poised, camera ready, and carefully curated. Monica, meanwhile, represented authenticity for girls who grew up rougher, emotional, outspoken, and unapologetically real. The media didn't just amplify their differences, it mythologized them. This wasn't just a rivalry, it was archetype versus archetype. Brandy became the good girl, Monica became the tough girl, and in a world obsessed with putting women in boxes, there was no room for nuance. Fans dug in deep, defending their chosen icon like it was personal. Interviews were dissected, social media posts were weaponized, and even when Brandy and Monica tried to move on, their supporters kept dragging them back into the narrative. Monica later admitted the feud became a living thing, one fed by rumors, the press, and a public that wanted drama more than truth. And that pressure of constantly being defined by a single moment in your teens took a heavy toll. Because while The Boy Is Mine was just a song to the rest of us, to Brandy and Monica, it was a trap. A hit record that locked them into characters they never asked to play. And even as they matured and evolved, the world refused to let them out of costume. The lines between fiction and reality had blurred, and the consequences would linger for years. As time passed, Brandy and Monica tried more than once to bury the hatchet. But every reunion seemed to come with a side of tension. In 2012, they released a follow up duet called It All Belongs to Me. The vibe was grown, mature on paper, but the interviews told a different story. The chemistry was off. Brandy would crack jokes Monica didn't laugh at. Monica looked like she was biting her tongue. Whatever piece they had was paper thin, and it showed. Then came the So Gone Challenge in 2016. Monica's 2003 hit resurfaced as fans and celebrities freestyled over the beat. Everyone was jumping in except Brandy. When asked if she'd participate, Brandy responded with a dismissive "Chile bye." That one tweet was enough to stir the pot again, but Monica took the high road. On the Rio, she said she wasn't bothered. In her words, "I've grown and I passed the test." It was mature, it was graceful, and it was the kind of response that made Brandy's next move look even more petty. Brandy clapped back on Instagram, throwing in cryptic captions like, "I know the real story and positivity is the one thing you should not fake." The drama didn't stop there. When Monica called Whitney Houston her fairy godmother in a heartfelt interview, Brandy, who famously starred alongside Whitney in Cinderella, fired back with her own tribute, but hers was longer, louder, and fans noticed. They accused Brandy of making Whitney's memory all about herself. Brandy, in return, called out Monica's fans for being evil. And just when you thought the shade had settled, Brandy performed The Boy Is Mine solo at the 2018 Essence Festival. But this time, she changed the lyrics. Instead of "The Boy Is Mine," she sang "The Song Is Mine." Fans clocked it immediately. Was it shade, a power move, a reminder that the original version was hers alone? No one had to guess. The message was loud and clear. Whatever truths they had, it wasn't built to last, even in adulthood, even after motherhood, even after Grammy wins and career highs. The rivalry still lingered in the background like a ghost they couldn't shake. And the next chapter would prove just how fragile that piece really was. In 2020, Brandy and Monica finally agreed to what fans had been begging for, an appearance on Versus. It was hyped as a cultural moment, a celebration, a healing, but from the very beginning, the energy was tense. They hadn't spoken in 8 years, and though they smiled for the cameras, the cracks were obvious. Then came the moment. When Monica introduced her hit, So Gone, and reminisced about her rougher past, saying she used to kick in doors and smack chicks, Brandy tried to lighten the mood with a joke. "I think I was one of those chicks." The smile dropped from Monica's face. She didn't laugh. She didn't play along. Her body language said everything. She was not feeling it. Monica was clearly blindsided. Brandy immediately tried to walk it back, saying it was just a joke and that she didn't want to mess up the moment, but it was too late. The tension had surfaced, live and unedited. To the casual viewer, Brandy's comment may have seemed playful, but for Monica, it hit a nerve and hit it hard. It wasn't just about an old fight. It was about identity, about years of being boxed in as the angry Black girl while trying to evolve into a respected artist, mother, and woman. That one line dragged her back into a stereotype she'd spent her entire adult life trying to escape. Psychologists call this identity threat, the intense emotional response triggered when someone feels like a fundamental part of who they are is being reduced, misrepresented, or weaponized. For Monica, that moment wasn't entertainment. It was a reminder that no matter how far she'd come, the public and even Brandy still saw her through the lens of her past. Brandy may have meant no harm, but intent doesn't erase impact. And in that moment, the Versus stage didn't feel like a celebration. It felt like a battlefield all over again. They moved on with the show, they laughed, they hugged, but behind the smiles, one thing was crystal clear. Time hadn't healed everything, and as the world watched, so did decades of unresolved tension. After years of tension, subtle shade, and fractured peace, the unthinkable happened. Brandy and Monica reconnected, but it didn't start with a sit down or an apology. It started with a phone call from Ariana Grande. In 2024, Ariana reached out to both women to remix their iconic hit, The Boy Is Mine. It was a bold move, and surprisingly, both Brandy and Monica agreed. Monica called the opportunity a blessing, while Brandy said it transported them back to one of the most powerful and painful times in their lives. The remix didn't just breathe new life into a classic, it sparked a conversation, and maybe, just maybe, it reopened a door that had been closed for far too long. Then in June 2025, Brandy and Monica made it official. They would be co headlining a tour together, The Boy Is Mine 25, marking the 25th anniversary of the song that defined them both. For longtime fans, it felt like closure. Like maybe after all these years, they'd finally found peace. Brandy said they'd been trying to tour together since 1998, but the timing was never right. Monica called their collaboration a musical marriage that had endured more than most real relationships. On the surface, it sounded like a redemption arc, two women, once enemies, now standing side by side, ready to reclaim their narrative. But under the surface, there's still fragility. Old wounds don't vanish with tour announcements. Body language still speaks louder than press releases, and history has shown us that peace between Brandy and Monica has always come with conditions. This tour isn't just about celebrating a hit song, it's about testing whether two women, shaped by rivalry, pain, and public expectation, can finally share the stage without letting the past pull them apart again. Because one thing is certain, if they're not solid behind the scenes, all the choreography in the world won't be able to keep the cracks from showing. Brandy and Monica's story was never just about a song, it was about survival. Two teenage girls thrust into fame, weaponized against each other, and expected to smile through it all. The Boy Is Mine made them icons, but it also locked them into a decades long emotional tug of war. A war of image, ego, and identity played out in headlines, interviews, and silent stares. The industry didn't just profit off their pain, it orchestrated it, and the public devoured every drop. Now, 25 years later, they're walking back into the fire. The tour is being sold as a full circle moment, a celebration of legacy, but for Brandy and Monica, it's far more complicated. This isn't just a reunion, it's a reckoning. Can two women who were once forced to compete finally collaborate on equal ground? Can they share the stage without falling back into old patterns? Or will the weight of history pull them under once again? The answer doesn't lie in set lists or standing ovations. It lies in whether they've truly done the inner work, whether they've healed, forgiven, and let go of the labels that were forced onto them. Because when they step onto that stage, they're not just performing for fans, they're confronting their younger selves, the versions of Brandy and Monica who were never allowed to simply be girls figuring it out. This tour could be the legacy moment they both deserve, but only if they remember that the real victory isn't in chart success or ticket sales, it's in finally standing beside each other, not as rivals, but as survivors.